Apparently the saying is now, the mother who represents their son has a fool for a client. That's cool. That's a cool one.
This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and we wanted to try something new this Friday. We've looked back at some of the comments from our videos for the last week and tried to react and respond to them, and we'll see if you like this kind of content. Let us know in the comments below, and maybe you'll find yourself on next week's comment review if we decide to do it again. So check it out. Candace N says, I was kind of wishy-washy about a kid being sued, but now I want Epic to crush him.
Yeah.
When they get cocky like that, that does kind of change it for me. You lose sympathy, you lose credibility and sympathy.
If he's like, oh, well, I did these cheats and now I got in trouble and I didn't know I could get in trouble. Doesn't that suck? Isn't there all this drama? That I can understand, but as soon as he's aware of the situation, he's aware of the gravity of the situation, and then he doubles down, no.
Now, wait, it's been 2 years, right? So he's not 14 anymore. He's like 16 now, right?
Probably.
Piprod01 says, why isn't the mother revoking his internet access and devices? Kid is going to bankrupt his family. Well, defending by stonewalling is a valid legal defense. I would want it to be under the advice of a experienced attorney. I don't know if that's how this is happening or not. It's kind of been unclear because one document said that they were in touch with an attorney, but then the kid was bragging that they didn't have to spend any money on it. So maybe they had a free consultation. I don't really know. And it's really not my place to speculate too much. TacoVert4 says, I have worked with Judge Flanagan. For the record, she is a hard ass. I would not want to be pissing her off. And if that's true, that that Judge Flanagan is a hard ass, telling her so in Epic's motion for a guardian is probably a good idea. Probably a good idea.
Yeah, in general, judges seem to be open to a lot of things, but not wasting their time and not disrespecting the court. So they want to listen to your arguments. They don't want to be jerked around.
If you're a judge, right, you probably believe in the system pretty heavily, and you believe that the taxpayers' resources should probably be used in a constructive way rather than just, stupidity.
Jacob Cloutier asks if there was an update on the fake cop, and I did respond. It was December 16th or something last year. It was right before I went to see Kaylee for the Christmas break. He pled guilty to assault and impersonating a public servant, which was part of a plea deal that I was asked to approve. And I approved of because it kept the worst of the charges. It goes on his record, and he got something like 3 or 5 years of probation. I've kind of put it out of my mind. Like, these things that happen, they make it difficult to be creative. So when they happen, I try to get through them and move on as quickly as possible, which is why I'm not, intensely interested in dragging it on for as long as possible and making sure that somebody suffers as much as possible.
And you did get a sense of closure from it.
Yes, didn't have to worry about it while I was in Scotland at the time. Tustin2121 says on the Richard Leibowitz video, they've noticed that there's a green screen, and he says, the glass, my immersion, you're not in your studio, head explodes. And then I explained that I've now green screened myself in some videos, probably going to be the majority of the reader videos, the audiobook videos, where I present a court document. I like to green screen myself out now because I think it makes it look clean and kind of professional. Yeah, it's not perfect. I'm not the best producer or videographer or cinematographer, but I'm learning from YouTube and getting progressively better and listening to your comments and everything. So definitely send me your comments.
It's pretty damn near perfect, and it does seem pretty meta that you're green screening yourself into your studio in your studio. But the main reason that we've done this is because we were getting a lot of complaints that Leonard reads too high up on the screen and his face was getting in the way of the document, which people like to read while they follow along. So having the green screen makes Leonard's webcam take up as little of the screen as possible, so that there's more room for the document in the center.
And where I've put it there, I think it makes it look like I'm looking up at the document, which kind of helps. So, you know, I don't mean like these make these things like remarkably better, but it's incremental steps, and we'll keep this level of production. We're going to reintroduce the same problem that we just had when I get back to Luxembourg, hopefully sometime here in December. Maybe I'll be able to get a green screen. Maybe I won't. I don't exactly know how that works. We've noticed that there are some weird import taxes, and sometimes shipping is very high to get things into Luxembourg. So either you find it there and pay the regular price, which includes the VAT and all that, or when you ship things in from outside, they want to charge you, 30% for the VAT or whatever. And that can make things that were priced already for a market be much more expensive when it gets there, plus shipping. So like the Elgato green screen was $170. Euros is going to be an extra 10%. Then there's going to be shipping and then a VAT. So I'm hoping that there's a vendor who sells a similar green screen over there. Alex Gilmer says, love the hair edit at 1152. Give your editor a raise. Wouldn't it be an access to justice issue if the judge said, no, you must hire a local North Carolina attorney and you must not hire Leonard French because he's not allowed to pro hoc vice into any more cases this year? That sounds like an access to justice and freedom of association issue. Keep up the good work. Love the content. And secret that I replied, thanks. I was the one who edited that in. And then I was like, you know what? That's a little bit too arrogant. I'm just going to delete that and just say thanks. And I was the one that edited that in. So you made me real happy with your comment there. I literally didn't know how to take the motion tracker and tie it to an image in DaVinci Resolve at all. And then I figured out that it could be done through the Fusion tab. And then I found a tutorial that showed how to do it with something else. And then I tried using an image as a media in source for the tracker, and it worked. And so it's not perfect. It moves weird at the end, and that wasn't intentional. But I'm slowly figuring it out. Incremental adjustments, incremental improvements.
Maybe this is a good time to go into our workflow. People might be curious about how we do these videos, how we get them done, how we get them out. Whenever we record a video, it's actually going to be cut up right now from a recording session that we do on Sundays and Wednesdays, although it's been Thursdays recently. And then that gets sent to me, and I do initial edits, which end up being cutting out some repetitive content, making sure everything sounds nice, adding an outro and an intro, and then I send it to Leonard, and he does like nice cuts. So he adds the hair, he adds screenshots. He will, if an update has happened in that case since we recorded, he'll add like a little voiceover of himself or an extra video, and then he renders it and uploads it to YouTube. So the reason why Leonard did that tracking hair was because that was in his part of the edit, which it was really cool. Like, well done, Leonard.
Thanks. I'm trying to, between you and I want both of us to learn how to do stuff like that to basically every video. That did not take long once I knew how to do it, but the knowledge of how to do it took me 10 years to learn Photoshop, everything I needed to know about Photoshop, while I was going to school and doing everything else. And it's taken the last 3 years to learn. Oh, well, actually, no, DaVinci Resolve we've only been doing for the last year, right?
A year and a bit, yeah.
We've only been using DaVinci Resolve since about summer of last year, I think.
I think it was a little bit closer to fall, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm now super confident in it. Like it was a no-brainer to get a better laptop to handle DaVinci Resolve when I learned that the Surface Book 2 runs out of battery if you're editing all day. Like the Surface Book 2 cannot be a desktop replacement is basically what that ended up being. Race Grooves comments on the Good Mythical Morning sued by copyright troll story. You can say it's definitely not fair use. This is where they had I think Fengsel is prison, so it whatever the name of the prison was, and then it was like that Fenxel, and I forget what the name of the prison was. They used somebody else's copyrighted material to tell their own story rather than a story about the actual picture. I tagged you at a similar situation where my content was swiped, but I never got a response. Twitter declined to get involved as well. Sorry I didn't see the previous tag, Race Grooves. We get a ton of tags, and I can't always... Sometimes I glance at them, sometimes I don't see them at all. You can always try to reach me at ljfrench@lawfulmasses.com. That would probably be the best way to reach me, as my assistant will see those emails too. Also on the Good Mythical Morning video, Kidsock TV says it will be interesting to see what GMM's defense is. Could they argue that their channel is educational and it's for teaching purposes? Yeah, that's more or less what my argument would be if somebody said that I used something wrong on this channel. I would think it is market usurpation because a photographer taking a photo to license to people, they weren't commenting on the photographer's photo, they were commenting on the prison. So I would think that is market usurpation. That would be my argument as a plaintiff's attorney. I don't know how I would argue as a defense attorney against that one. I would argue it was short. It was on screen for only 4 seconds or something like that. It was only used to illustrate the place. It wasn't market usurpation because people weren't going to come to the GMM's video to see that author's work. But I think the photographer would say that it was market usurpation because the market is paying for a license and they didn't pay for a license. Like it's worse than this sort of indirect market usurpation where someone might view your version of someone's copyrighted work instead of buying the original or paying to see the original. So in other words, the clearest example would be if you need to go to the movie theater to see a movie because it's not released on the internet yet, but somebody puts it up on their website for $1 or for free, and it's some kind of, they've made a copy, like a high quality copy or whatever quality copy. We've seen them, a bootleg copy. And they put it up on a website and you download it. Yeah, that's market usurpation. Not only is that just clearly copyright infringement, but there's, that if you're trying to say fair use, well, look at the market usurpation factor. That's market usurpation. So we're somewhere in between there. Is anyone going to go watch Good Mythical Morning's episode on the prison in order to see that? No, it's not that kind of market usurpation. It's the kind of market usurpation where they just avoided paying a license fee. Another one? Jack Evans asks, are you green screening yourself onto your own set? Yes.
Yes. Love it.
It's to facilitate the cutout. Robe Konsu says, this was 4 years ago. What is the statute of limitations here? I also wonder about the jurisdiction here. The offense occurred in California. The photo was taken in Norway. The photo was used, I'll answer the second question first. The photo was used on YouTube, so I think there'd be various jurisdictions. Jurisdiction's always a weird question, and it's always why we skip jurisdiction, because it takes so much explanation that people would be bored and we would miss the meat of every video. So jurisdiction could be in Norway. Jurisdiction could be in California, in Northern California, where YouTube is. Jurisdiction might be someplace where the photographer sells their photos, where they have what they would call minimum contacts with the forum state. And various states where these minimum contacts occur will have different long-arm statutes. Those statutes say things like, you can sue here if the injured party does business here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you meet the minimum contacts for the forum state, you can sue in that forum state. And then there's also laws that govern international lawsuits and how can a person from Norway, for example, sue somebody in the US. So then usually it's something like either the plaintiff's minimum contacts, or there are various laws about where the defendant works or resides or where the injury occurred. So where they're suing will come into this, and that could be a defense. But the 4 years ago thing is important. So the apparently the Good Mythical Morning video is from 4 years ago. Great. If it was up 4 years ago and down and has been down for 4 years or more than 3, great. However, the video is still up, so I likened it to a continuously renewing fountain of still happening. Kind of an awkward way of saying that, but yeah. So it's still up, so you can still go watch it. I was able to go watch it, so that means that you couldn't sue for the thing more than 3 years ago, but you can sue for it now because it's still happening. Ryan Blakesley says, Leonard, prepare for your own troll lawsuit for showing a photo of a photo of a photo. And then I said, no, Your Honor, I was commenting on the lawsuit about the commentary and fair use of the prison photo. Yeah, I doubt that I'll get sued, but yeah, that's a thing I should be careful of, right? Don't get my own lawsuit. Vern C asks, are images from Google Street View copyrighted? This is a good one. You can go and read Google's copyright notice, and I believe it's as long as you attribute Google, which is pretty easy because most of the time Google Street View's images have Google's copyright in them, so unless you're cropping it out. But as long as you attribute Google as the source, you're good as far as I know. Again, that's not legal advice. They could have changed it in between the last time I looked and now, and I don't want to be responsible for you going and making use of it. So go look for yourself for Google's copyright usage policy on Google Earth images and Street View images. However, be careful. Be careful. Google has incorporated copyrighted photos into Street View. I was doing some looking in northern Scotland, and Kaylee was at the Raasay Islands or something like that. And I was looking at different mountains, and I was using the Street View to see from different peaks. And then there was a little notice there that those images were actually not owned by Google, but rather licensed in a sense that they got permission because someone uploaded a 360-degree image in that case to Google as a location image. But that wasn't an image that I can just go take. That did not belong to Google. Google's images that Google owns would be subject to their license. And then any of those other images that you find on Google Maps, and I'm assuming Bing and whatever Microsoft, whatever else is out there, have similar things where you go and find like pictures that were taken at the attraction. Those would not be usable without further investigation and clearance of their copyrights. Evil Ash asks, copyright covers the life of the author plus 70 years. How does that affect corporations, which are not a person and can theoretically live for eternity? That is, in the US, 120 years for corporate-owned copyrights. So if you're a corporation acting in the modern Copyright Act and you make a work for hire that is owned by the corporation, that's going to have a 120-year copyright term. So here's a good comment on the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act video from Delphinius. I'm not sure. I like this ruling. The point that stuck out in my head, I guess, was that his text reader could not read the website. His third-party device could not read the website. If I recall correctly, it was that there wasn't proper alt text on the... So when you're making a website, I'm sure a lot of people know this already, but you have various fields in the image tag, one of which is the alt text, and you can put like pepperoni pizza with cheese or whatever. And then back in the day when sometimes internets didn't work or things broke easily, you might be able to get the text of the website, but not the images. Or you might be browsing on a phone, like an early smartphone that we didn't even call them smartphones at first. It was just trying to browse the web on your phone. And sometimes the phone couldn't actually display images properly. So you would just want the text, like literally on your little V550 screen or whatever, you could get the text of the web page and choose links. So you could have, it could be a link that, that has an image tag, and then there's an alt text in there, and you could see what the alt text was and click on the link. And you could actually navigate a website. So that was accessible for people because you had limited data availability. Now we download megabytes of JavaScripts every time you visit a website. It's insane. And I try to turn all that stuff off as much as possible and see how many websites are completely broken without JavaScript. Try and go to a modern news website without JavaScript, and you'll find it's really hit or miss. Sometimes completely broken on some of these like BuzzFeed style websites. You might find dozens to hundreds of attempts to load scripts in your browser. So what I'm saying then in response to Delphinius is that it is important to make sure the website works for people to be able to then order something and go pick it up at a physical location, or get something from a physical location, get something delivered from a physical location. So if I'm ordering something from Amazon, I need to be able to see the text for the image of the thing that I'm ordering and make sure that it's the right device and the description is good and the thing that I order matches the description and all that, because a blind person's going to be literally unable to determine whether certain things are match the description and all that, because they lack the senses to do so. But they need the thing to work. They need it to function, whatever they're ordering.
I think I read in another lawsuit that strike-through text can also be a big issue for screen readers, because the screen reader will just read the text and not recognize that the font is strike-through. And so if you have a sale item where the original amount has a strike through it, and then you give the sale amount, that someone who is using a screen reader would just get two prices for it and not know, like maybe one price is for a 3-pack and one price is for a singular item. They wouldn't know what they were getting.
Yeah. Meanwhile, MattWo7 follows up. Domino's whining about not being given guidance when they didn't even bother doing the obvious and making text-only mirror or TTS accommodation software comprehend linked-in text somewhere on their homepage, which would be far cheaper to maintain than a site full of images. Yeah, it's not that hard when you're putting, even in modern content management systems, the fields are there and you just have to type it in. So it's a matter of making sure that stuff gets typed in and that your website isn't maintained by inexperienced web management people. Stephen Rakin says, you can call Domino's, that is your access. I don't understand how that is unclear. A website is not a place of public accommodation. It's not a place. I think the ruling was that it's because the website gets access to a place of public accommodation, such as going to the restaurant to be able to pick something up, or ordering something from a physical location, the restaurant, to come to you. And not everyone can call. I have a friend who lost his voice, so he can't call. So he needs to be able to order. He could go there. He has his sight and hearing, so he could go there and like point to something. Sure. So yeah, he has access. But okay, what if someone is blind and mute, but they can read with Braille? They could read your website through a text reader. Maybe they still have their hearing. They could. So we don't want to assume that everybody's got all of their senses and abilities when we're considering accessibility for disabled people. And Joshua Walker reinforces this. The HTML alt attribute was designed specifically for describing graphical elements for the blind, has been part of web standards since November 24th, 1995. So yeah, I 100% agree, Mr. Walker. You walk all over them arguments. So YouTube instituted a 5-second rule, says Game Hammer Classic Gaming. Yeah, something like that. I think you can still get a DMCA takedown, but I don't know about any more monetization claims for use of 5 seconds or less. Here, this is a good one. Pony Slay Station. I'm just a layman, but your objection, this is on the YouTube fair use video, but your objection to content ID cannot account for fair use is that YouTube needs to take Lens Fit Universal into account. Is that true? I thought only the claimant needed to take it into account. Is this because content ID? Well, yeah, I mean, who is the claimant if with content ID? It sounds to me like there's somebody between YouTube and the person they're claiming it for. I mean, it does Content ID claim content on behalf of me? I would hope that I would know that, and I would hope that I would have control over what happens when that happens. And if I'm choosing to use Content ID, YouTube would be responsible on some level, I would think, for being the creator and maintainer of Content ID if it is flagrantly damaging people by misidentifying content. I think they get away with it because it does enable things. I want to do a video about Content ID gets lawyered, and I want to argue both sides of Content ID for you and see, why was it created? What problems does it solve? It really does solve a bunch of problems, but it also introduces problems on the border here with fair use, which is why we live here on the border with fair use. Dr. Osiris says on the YouTube fair use review video, are you sure she said can't? There's a section in that video, maybe Brandon can link to it in a card at this point. But there's a section in that video where she says fair use, Content ID can account for fair use.
Automated systems like Content ID can account for fair use. This doesn't mean that fair use can't.
Did she say can or can't account for fair use? And the words are slurred together. And so I relied on the script. YouTube would have uploaded the script, very likely uploaded the script directly when they were uploading the video. You just take the text file from the script and you post it in the video, and then you got the exact script. And so my argument is that the script says can't. She runs the words together, and you cannot tell whether she says can account or can't account or can account, can't account. It's just impossible to hear. So the previous sentence, she says can't. And I think she says can't account for something. And in the next sentence, she says Content ID can't account for fair use. And you can't hear whether there is a T in there or not. So my argument was that she said can't account for fair use, cannot account for fair use using Content ID, which to me would be a violation of Lens v. Universal that somebody would have to bring to a court and get a judge to read and take with credibility and credence. So good luck. Oh, did I mess up the, if I've messed up the hashtag, let me fix that. I'm surprised I didn't notice until now. Yes, I did mess up the good job, Leonard. Is the hashtag a deliberate pun, or does law school predispose one to spoonerize climate into claim it? Yeah. Yep, that's what happened. I'm so used to typing the word claim that I typed claim instead of climate. So that's what happened there. PK Gam says, very nice coverage. I too think it's about pushing to get awareness and quicker action, etc., etc. I agree. Zarkow says, don't indulge poorly educated idiots. This is what it leads to on the Greta Thunberg video. And I agree on some level, but we're on the opposite of this, trying to educate poorly educated, or maybe not poorly educated. Let's not call our audience poorly educated. I'm trying to educate people who are willing to watch my videos. So what does that make them? That makes them open-minded. So we're trying to overcome, at least arm more people against the poorly educated idiots. How about we put it that way?
I don't understand all of the hate towards Greta Thunberg. People seem to, if they don't like what she says, they'll focus on her age, which to me seems like a fallacy. That if she's saying something that you disagree with, then, bring up your evidence, bring up your arguments. But then to say that her arguments can't be correct or well-founded because of her age or because of the fact that she's not neurotypical, like that to me just seems disingenuous. It seems like you're trying to dismiss what she has to say because it's uncomfortable, and so you're finding a convenient excuse.
One last one on the Greta Thunberg one. it's kind of, I wanted to, there were a number of these. Think of the children. When I was a kid, government put the fear of nuclear destruction into us, spelled with an I. Now it's climate extinction event. I'd like to see who's funding this. Greta is just a corporate pawn. Sad. And I'm open to hearing the arguments that climate change is not happening, but no one has been able to present zero evidence to me. I have seen zero evidence. I've just seen people whining about how climate change isn't real and how Greta is a pawn, and no one has presented any evidence that any conspiracy exists. So YCCM7 asks, if you don't know who's funding her, it sounds like her being a corporate pawn is just your opinion. Deo Machina says nuclear war was a real threat and did almost happen. And yeah, that's you can go read about those things in the history books and all that in detail and go research them and find sources and things. So if you haven't done that, then you don't know what you're talking about. So thank you for leaving all of your comments. I look forward to reviewing the comments on this story and the next week's worth of videos in possibly next Friday's comment review. Thank you to our supporters. I'll do a quick one here. Thank you to our channel sponsor for October, Joshua Davis from TandaPay. Thank you to our $50 plus supporters, Joe Tyson, Aspernari, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Kyle Mudrak, Michael Pearce, Spirit Bear, Jan Negrey, Daniel Perez, Snorre Wisotzky, Blackleaf, and Benjamin Hitov. And thank you to the $5 plus supporters that are scrolling on the LED panel behind me and will be on the crawl in front of me. Have some dog video and some music, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you all. Bye.
Good girl.